Hi, I'm Ashura, and today we're gonna talk Kobold lore, a group of creatures that have featured pretty prominently in the War Within's leveling experience. And the reason I want to get into their lore today is because, surprisingly, they actually connect to a lot of really big things going on. Kobold lore goes back to Titan lore, to Old God lore, and I want to unpack that all. Despite existing since basically before WoW's inception, we don't actually know that much lore about the Kobolds, because they've been used as nothing more than quest fodder pretty much every time they've shown up since vanilla. It wasn't until Legion that they started getting a lot more world building and lore to them. I'd say the three most well-established kobold groups are the Highmountain kobolds from Legion, the Ringing Deeps kobolds, who I would venture to say have the most established kobold city, and the group of kobolds from the Fairy Tale book. Now, to understand kobold lore, we're gonna start where we always do, their origins. And we actually didn't know where they came from for the longest time. There's an in-universe evolutionary chart penned by Bran Bronzebeard in one of the old WoW magazine issues that says the kobolds evolved from the Trogs. I opened up my copy of Exploring Azeroth Northrend the other day, and there's another, but different, evolutionary chart in that book that also says the kobolds came from the Trogs. Now, these are both technically in-universe sources written by characters from their point of view. So, canon, not canon, take that as you will. I'm going to assume that unless we get lore that contradicts that, specifically that this is canon and the kobolds did actually evolve from the Trogs. Now, the Trogs were originally Titan constructs. This is why we see stone trogs in Titan facilities like Ulduar and Uldum. And when the Titan Keepers created constructs and machines to help them shape and safeguard Azeroth, the very first thing they made were the Trogs. But they were sort of a prototype. They weren't quite right. The Titan Keepers didn't really like how they turned out. And so they completely scrapped them and started over and made the earthen. Now, we know earthen lore. A group of earthen ended up slumbering beneath the Titan facility of Ulduman and were inflicted with the curse of flesh, a malady sent by the old gods that turned their stone skin fleshy and essentially made them forget who they were. This group of earthen slumbering beneath Ulduman, when inflicted by the curse of flesh, eventually evolved into the fleshy dwarves we know and love today. And the kobolds are pretty much the Trog version of that, but not necessarily exactly, because the Trogs themselves, when afflicted by the curse of flesh, became fleshy Trogs. It just seems that at some point in the timeline they evolved further into kobolds. Maybe also worth pointing out that the Trogs also evolved into Grimmels, those little guys back in Pandaria. But perhaps unlike the kobolds, though it's hard to say, the evolution to Grimmels was not a natural one. It was actually the Mogu who came across the Trogs and decided to specifically magically shape them into Grimmels. It's probably worth noting here that old lore from vanilla from the Ulduman dungeon says that the Trogs actually evolved from the earthen and that they were a result of the curse of flesh in addition to the dwarves. Chronicle essentially retconned this by saying that the Trogs were actually the original constructs of the Titan Keepers, but I wanted to point this out because both the evolutionary charts from the magazine and Exploring Azeroth Northrend actually still say that the Trogs evolved from the earthen directly, not that they were created alongside them. But I would assume that Chronicle lore takes precedent here. Hence what I brought up about maybe these aren't quite canon because they're just from in-universe character perspectives. Regardless of how exactly it happened, we can probably still say that the kobolds came from the Trogs. So this sort of explains why Trogs, kobolds, dwarves, and even earthen, to an extent, are all centralized around Khazmadan, like Dunmorrow and Lochmadan. In fact, you'll find that if you look at a map of Azeroth, there are kobolds pretty much exactly everywhere there are trogs. It's not necessarily one-to-one, but you could account for it by assuming that perhaps the kobolds or the trogs migrated a bit throughout Azeroth throughout the years. Now, all kobold tribes are pretty unique and follow different rules in regards to their leaderships, beliefs, etc., but there's some really interesting similarities between them. All kobolds, no matter who they are or where they are, share a very strong possessive love of candles. But it wasn't really until Legion that we understood the significance of these candles beyond simply being a cute gimmick. If you go into a cave in Highmountain, you'll find a row of candles, and if you snuff all of them out, it will spawn a voidy rare named the Darkness. Sound similar? That's pretty much exactly what's going on in the Ringing Deeps. The Darkness also happens to be the name of the final boss of Darkflame Cleft, and if you've done that fight, you know candle mechanics are a very important part of it. But what's interesting is that these darknesses, despite sharing the same name and vague general attributes, they seem to be different. They're different models, they look different, and this will become clear once we get into the lore that covers it in just a little bit, but these darknesses are both pretty well established in their respective locations. The implication when you go through both Ringing Deep's lore and the Highmountain quests is that these darknesses have been here for ages, and not only that, but these darknesses seem to return repeatedly. I don't think there's any sort of crossover between them, but I do think they are the same type of thing. It's strongly implied that they both have to do with old god stuff. We know that the old gods burrowed deep into Azeroth's crest, and if you go anywhere deep enough into the planet, you'll probably stumble across a whole bunch of old god things. I mean, after all, there is a lot of old god blood under Khaz Algar. It's not exactly a far leap of logic to assume that the kobolds, who are known for tunneling underground, perhaps ran into two separate old god-y type entities. Now, I should say we do actually know what the Highmountain darkness is. Later on in the Horde quests in Highmountain, it's revealed to be a Cathrax, a minion of the Old Gods, though this specific one happens to have the title Herald of the Old Gods. We just don't really know what's going on with the darkness in Darkflame Cleft, and what's up with that or what it is. Though I do think it is meant to be a separate entity from the Highmountain Cathrax. There's a few lore pages strewn throughout the Ringing Deeps that go into more detail about the darkness and sort of kobold beliefs surrounding it, so I want to actually take you through those real quick. There must always be candlelight. If not, great darkness will return. Old story's always right. Silly in the head kobolds don't listen, but smart kobolds know. We always must have candle. Without candle, darkness returns and crunch kobolds. Remember the old stories. Remember we live in tunnels. Remember who else lives in tunnels and dark places. Never forget. You smart. If you have no candle, you run. No matter how strong candlelight is, darkness returns. No matter if we defeat darkness, it returns in new shape. Kobolds beware of darkness. We can't know when it come back. Maybe it is back, but kobolds not seeing it. Maybe candle's not strong enough. Scary think. You not let others take candle. Other don't know what kobold know about darkness. Candle is kobold life. What struck me as interesting is that these two kobold societies, completely halfway across the world from each other, both have to deal with an entity called the Darkness, and believe that their candles are protection to ward off those entities. Now, I have a few different theories about why this may be the case. It's possible that it could just be a coincidence. The kobolds may have always needed the light of candles to help them when they were tunneling underground in order to see, and perhaps these two kobold cultures independently came across old god beings long ago, and now their beliefs about candles have turned from helping them in the dark tunnels to protecting them from these entities. The other theory, which I particularly like, is that it might actually be a vestige of their programming. They originally came from Titan constructs, after all. Now, we haven't really seen anything like this with the dwarves, but the trogs were different. Maybe the Titan Keepers programmed them with this very strong anti-void sentiment that ended up distilling throughout the years to a point that when they evolved into kobolds had simply just persisted as a vague belief about something called the darkness. It just so happens that a few kobold cultures did actually end up coming across void beings of a sort. The only group not quite like this are the group of kobolds in the fairy tale book. They don't actually have a darkness insofar as an actual entity that will eat them alive, but they do believe in the darkness as an allegory for death, or more specifically, cave-ins. These group of kobolds have a saying, "Never pick above your snout, lest the darkness snuff you out." The idea is that if they try to tunnel upwards, they will cause cave-ins and perish, so to speak. So it could be that the kobolds have always believed in the darkness as death, as a metaphor for death, and that when the Highmountain and Ringing Deep's kobold happened across old god entities, that metaphor took on new meaning because here suddenly was a creature that would actually kill them if they didn't have their candles to ward it off. I honestly have no idea. So if you have a different theory, or if you think one of these makes sense, let me know, because I'm actually very curious what people's take is on this. It may be worth pointing out that the Ringing Deep's kobolds do actually also believe that they shouldn't tunnel upwards. In the series of Granny Scribble's quests, there's one where it talks about how before a certain point the kobolds had never tunneled upward. The group of kobolds in the fairy tale story also refer to the sun as a wickless candle, and so too, in those same Granny Scribble's quests, do they call the sun a wickless candle. I think this is just establishing more baseline kobold world building than anything indicative about perhaps their connections as cultures, but I really can't help but think about it because of how far all these kobold cultures are from each other. I really just always find myself wondering, is it a coincidence? Is it because they all come from one place? Like, what is up with that? So, now I want to take you on a story playthrough of the Highmountain Kobold quests, because there's actually a few more really interesting similarities between the Highmountain Kobolds and the Ringing Deep's Kobolds in it that I want to point out as we go through it. So let's jump into that.
I have just the thing for you.
Many centuries ago, I was the leader of the Skyhorn tribe. Never have I seen this sort of desecration of our ancient burial ground.
Beware the deep places of the earth.
I've been dead for centuries without having my grave so disturbed. The leader of the local kobolds has stolen my skull from my grave and wears it upon his head. He is down in the cave below, but a gate blocks your path from retrieving it directly. Kobolds know their leadership by the skulls they wear, and they are unintelligent enough to believe you their leader if you have one yourself. Kill one of their skull captains and recover his skull of bossing around, and they may let you into the cave. This seems to be the only group of kobolds that indicate their leadership by skulls. I think there's another group of kobolds that their leadership is assumed by whoever is the biggest candle, but in the case of the Ringing Deep's kobolds, the Candle King actually had a crown, and then when he found the dark candle, he used that as a sign of leadership instead.
Together we are Highmountain.
These kobolds are taking advantage of the attacks against the Skyhorn tribe. They disturb our graves and steal anything they can get their paws on. I can do nothing to stop them. Please rid the sacred burial ground of the kobold.
On shall guide you.
Skull of bossing around. Kobolds use skulls to designate their leadership. I want to point out that the text on the Candle King's candle crown from the Ringing Deeps says, "The traditional symbol of kobold authority passed down through the ages." So these two kobold groups, despite their similarities, have different symbols to indicate leadership. These guys use skulls, and the guys in Ringing Deeps use a candle crown.
Do you feel the change in the wind?
The desecration.
Look to the skies.
This will work perfectly, I believe.
Together we are Highmountain.
Some of them seem to be digging less enthusiastically, at the very least.
Ride the winds.
Go talk to the Blue Wax Gatekeeper and see if he will let you through to the Candle King. If you can get through by donning the skull, the smell will be worth it.
On shall guide you.
Why no have candle? Darkness eat you if no have candle. What you want, Stinky? You no come in yet. Give orders to other kobold on throne of ordering around if you want in. Then maybe we talk. I just in time for job. Snazzle, good worker. I pick just for you. What you want me find? Me have shovel. Pilfer golden coins from graves within the nearby burial grounds. Go find Shiny. Dig dirt in dead place. This one has dull mind, but sharp chisel. You need kill? My chisel acts best in sharpness ever. Slay the strongest basilisk that roams these caverns and drag its lifeless corpse to my feet. You kill basilisk. Biggest in cave. Bring back. I poke it dead for you, boss. Too slow. Boss not have all day. Move too fast. Candle blowout. Darkness eat me. What you want me do? Can wax off extra hairs? Make drip bath? Check yours for waxes? Use the finest wax to craft a magical candle worthy of the Candle King. Make big candle. Lots of wax. You'll notice that they also have a Candle King here, much like they have a Candle King in Ringing Deeps. And I think those are the only two instances we see of Candle Kings across Kobold societies, I should say. You pick best digger. Dug not best. Dug good enough, though. I mine. You no take pickaxe. Where you want rocks dug? Want the metals? Pick a little dull. Use your pickaxe to mine precious metals from the richest vein in the cavern and bring the samples back to me. Dig rocks. Find pretties. More pretty is better. You do good. Boss is the bossiest. I keep chair warm while boss gone. What are you doing back so soon? Why you come back already? Have to wait until jobs are done or I no let you through. Go back to throne of ordering around and make sure they finish. I found shinies for boss. Me find shiny coins at Berry Place. So many, so shiny. What me do with them? You keep one, I keep the rest. Boss is the best. Killed biggest basilisk and heaviest. I find biggest basilisk in cave. It dead now. I get reward. Best kill job me seen. You get best reward. Prize and junk pile right by boss. waits patiently with wide eyes for his reward. Give Tri-Tooth the boot. This best boot ever! Bet it burns brighter than candle! Where is Doug? Should be back. Boss, go find. Yeah, Doug didn't make it. But I like how this also sort of references, or at least mirrors, what's going on in the fairy tale story with how cave-ins can actually be pretty dangerous for kobolds. I know, stop candle making, unless you want story. Kip Brightwick takes a deep breath. Kobolds live here a long time. Make home in nooks. Catch rats. Sometimes eat them. Dig for treasure. Trade with harpies. They like shinies. We like wax. Fresh from ears is best. One day, Drogbar come in. Say cave is theirs. They smash and scare. We take candles and hide. Drogbar big and stupid. They have cave, but no have candle. Darkness finds them. Darkness follows them. Darkness swallows them whole. We come back. We have candles. Cave ours again. Candles keep us safe. Candle almost ready. Just needs magic touch and Candle King will the best candle I ever make. Me think me have just the right touch. The candle burns green. You come in when jobs are done. What that? You have Candle King's special candle? Okay, guess you can go say hi to Candle King now. Behold, the Candle King of the Highmountain Kobolds. What you doing here? All candles my candles. See big horns? You no take candle.
What has the wind brought?
Have you found my skull?
Look to the sky.
Thank the spirits. These kobolds do not honor their ancestors in the way we do. I can rest peacefully now.
Beware the deep places of the earth.
And that's the Highmountain quests on the kobolds, and also just a whole bunch of kobold lore in general. There's like a lot of similarities between them, more so than any of the other kobold groups, between the Darkness and the Candle King, but also a lot of differences, considering that these guys use skulls for leadership and the kobolds in the Ringing Deeps just use their candle crown, I guess. But it's interesting to go through to see a lot of the similarities, especially since these kobold cultures are so far apart from each other. And that's why I can't really land on a theory like, could this just be baseline world building and that's why they're all so similar? Could it be that they originally come from the same place? Or a different third reason, maybe? But I thought that would be fun to play through to see a lot of similar beats to the Ringing Deep stuff, at least with regards to the Darkness specifically and what the kobolds here have to say about that. So thank you for joining me for this spot of kobold lore. I hope it was illuminating, and I hope to see you in the next one. A group of creatures that have featured... Oh, no, I have to log over. Where the heck am I supposed to... Oh, I see. Oh. I didn't mean to kill it. Or do that! Am I going the wrong way again? A group of features? Let me out! A group of features I did it again! I went all the way upstairs. Why does this keep happening? Stop. Okay. Hello.